you about a book that we just helped print and publish, Barack Obama versus the Black Hebrew Israelites. It's written by one of my friends, VOCAB Malone. VOCAB has done a great job of going through and presenting almost like an introductory manual to the Black Hebrew Israelite religion.
That I hosted, and people were trying to put me and Avery against each other, man. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I wasn't even in the debate, man. It was wild. It was wild.
How are they gonna do that, man?
Well, I think because I didn't they thought that since I walk in the identity markers of the house of Israel and Avery doesn't, that he and I are preaching a different gospel. So they're saying, why don't I have a problem with Avery if I'm going to have a problem with these non-Trinitarians? I was like, this isn't the same thing. Me and Avery have the same gospel. You guys don't have the same gospel that I do.
All right. Huh, fascinating.
There you go. You got us back.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you bigger up in here too. But your resolution looks low. Or lower than it should.
I'm coming in real in the preview. I'm coming in right. I'm coming in real crispy on the preview.
Yeah, I got a lot to learn, man. And I think I want to get it more where I have it. How you guys do, where it's like the video, like a video's kind of running, you know, instead of just an image. But I know it's going to take up more bandwidth and stuff. I figure when you have like a video playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I feel like, yeah, I got a lot to learn, man. I feel like you could totally do something like a smoke room type thing, though, if you wanted, because you're quick on your feet, man.
I appreciate that, brother. You know, I think sometimes it can be distracting, though, when sometimes people come in, you know, they can derail stuff. I've been having to have my mods really, you know, direct it.
But if you're doing a smoke room type thing, I'm saying, you know, it's not like you have a set thing anyway, you know, they're not right. Like that's part of the craziness, but it's not for everybody. But the people who watch this, they tell me what they like is the unpredictability. You know, they like that anybody will call in and talk about anything, and nobody knows what's gonna happen. You
never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. Yo, God Logic, and I got you too, House of Hikmah. I just gotta wanted to time it now. All right, God Logic, how you doing, man? I know you're driving, bro.
What's up, man? I actually just parked. I'm walking now. Can you guys hear me?
Okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah, we can hear you, brother.
Do you know all these tricks, these live streaming tricks and stuff he's showing me?
Nah, that's Rabbi Eduardo's specialty, man. He knows how to do all that. He be teaching me stuff, and I don't even be understanding what he be saying.
Avery be like, you such a professional.
Yeah, but your stuff looks pretty good, Avery.
Whose? Mine?
Yours, doesn't it? Doesn't it? I thought it did last time I looked at it.
No, it does not. Mine is straight up regular.
Straight up regular?
You know, straight up regular. Probably 720 ADP. But it's not that good.
Man, but you're busy. You're active, bro.
Y'all stream looks good. See, a lot of dragons to slay, man.
Dragons to slay.
Dragons out here to slay.
Yeah, you do. Everyone, God Logic. A lot of you know God Logic, but he does a lot on Islam, and his stuff's really good. You guys definitely got to check him out. Just go to God Logic on YouTube. You'll find him. What are you about to say, though?
Thanks, VOCAB. Now, I was telling Radar to give you my number, man. They're trying to get in contact with you some way, shape, or form through either him or Faithful. I wanted to do the stream with you.
Oh yeah, I know we met in person that one time in Cali, and I wanted to do something ever since then.
Well, yeah, I recently had a run-in with some Hebrew Israelites about a month ago, and I wanted to play it through a stream, and you and I react to some points to it, you know, and break some stuff down.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds dope.
I like that idea. You want to do that on your channel or what?
Yeah. So,
all right. Is this your midnight stroll or what, bro?
I'm at my mom's house, so her parking complex is complicated.
I can already tell it's an
So,
apartment because when someone gets out and they say they're at someone's house and they have this long to walk before they reach the destination, that's an apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
Getting your steps in out there in Cali.
yes, sir. Yeah, finishing my walks, you know, finishing my steps, you know. So we good over here.
Yeah, you guys. I heard you guys did some
I can't
dope
see a fucking
videos when
check.
when Eduardo was out there in Cali. You guys did some dope videos together, right?
Yeah, we did, man. I'm waiting for Radar to put them out.
It's
Look
on
at
you.
him.
What's
Yeah.
up? What's up, Eduardo? What's up, man?
Look at him.
No,
Pathetic,
listen,
isn't he?
I did. So check it out. In 15 days, I did 19 live streams, 20 live streams. So I've been doing a lot of live streams. You know what I mean? Gearing up and stuff. But yeah, but those videos are there. So we probably got like two or three more videos to do to put out based upon what we did in Cali. You know, we went to a mosque, which there was actually a funeral happening, so we didn't hang out there for too long, unfortunately. But there were other places we went, you know, LGTV churches, things like that, spoke to people, so that stuff will be out there, so it should be good.
Well, yeah, we're waiting.
Dang, so it's all on Eduardo, bro. You got to stop live streaming all the time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you think?
Talking about he doing all this live streaming, he can literally edit a 4-minute video and put it up. It's only like 4 or 5 minutes.
Hey, man, it takes forever to do 4-minute videos, man.
Not with
Especially when
him. It shouldn't.
Oh, he's got that quick. He's got that quick ability.
He's a professional.
Yeah, you know what it is.
You know, man, I'm a perfectionist too, though, man.
You got to take off that hat. Take off your live streaming hat. Put on your editor hat, bro.
Yeah, you think I gotta do that? See, usually what I gotta do, I gotta put on my my chef hat. You know what I'm saying? When I'm cooking people.
Oh gosh, bro. Seriously?
So like.
Seriously, man.
Yeah, why not?
Man, so you got hats too through your widgets?
Yeah, bro, I got all types of stuff, man. I'll tell you, I'll give you guys a cheat code, man. It's for the body massage, man. Whatever I could do, you know.
Yeah, but it's still like mad confusing. Somehow you just figure it out all quick. What the heck?
This is that's Uthman Ibn Chicken, bro. This is the guy that was debating.
No, I knew who you were right away. I met him out there. You know, he's all talking to Anthony. He's like, "What did they call you?" They called me shooter because I was the shooter. Yeah. Anthony called me the crook because I was the crook. All right, what's up, House of Hickman, man? You, I'm sure you're enjoying our tutorial, bro. Looks like you about to fall asleep on your bed, though, bro. Looks like you're about to be out. I don't know, man. You know Eduardo already or what?
No, he mentioned on Thaddeus's live stream that he wants to work with me. So
I don't know. Yeah, he might have just been saying that to appease you. I'm just kidding, man. Hey, Minister Meach says, we got a super chat from Minister Meach. I need your library. The knowledge you drop about rabbinic tradition is very insightful. Do you have a recommended book list anywhere? All right, bro. Hey, smoke rooms for you, Eduardo. Drop the links. Drop the library.
Yeah, I could do that.
Well, you got to do it now. You just gave a super chat.
Yeah, I'm working on. Oh, you want me to say it? I was gonna drop the link. All right, so
well, I'm saying he wants some booklet. You know, a little bit. You got.
All right, let's do it. So you want to grab this book, which is called the Introduction to the Talmud and Midrash by Steinbeck. That's going to give you the whole academic background of Talmud and Midrash, where everything came from, the codices we have, all the manuscripts we have, the translations that we have. That you need 100%. You need Michael Brown's 5 volumes of answering Jewish objections to Jesus. You want to get Rambam's Introduction to the Mishnah. That's going to give you a rundown on the oral law. You're going to want to get a subscription to ArtScroll app online for $10 a month. That will give you the full Babylonian Talmud library in Hebrew and English. It'll also give you some of the Sidors and the halakhic works. So that'll be a great place to start. That'll keep you busy for a couple of years, just going through that material, and you'll be able to answer all of those things. And then check out the channel. You know, many times I've been doing a different worldview series, going through Baal, Chemosh, all the different gods and deities and demonic entities in history in the Bible. So I've been doing that for about, the past 2 weeks. But if you check out the clips that I put out, I'm debunking rabbis' claims on Isaiah 53. So yeah, that would be the way to go. Michael Brown's 5 volume. Introduction to Talmud and Midrash, and get Rambam's Introduction to the Mishnah by Judaica Press.
Hey, that's pretty good, bro. He just hooked you up.
That's the way to go, man.
You're going through. You're learning about You're teaching people about Chemosh and Molech.
Yeah, we did a whole series, like just all the deities, all the false deities, man. Like went through all of them. I'm looking at the channel. We went through Zeus, Greek gods, Lilith, the false name Yahshua. Reposted Brown's thing. Went through the background of Iron Man, Mormonism, Christian yoga, Christian philosophy, CERN, Christian scientists, all that stuff, man.
Did you say Iron Man?
Yeah, the background of Iron Man.
What?
Did you know that in the comic books, right? In the comic books, that Tony Stark's dad sold his soul to the devil.
I didn't know that, man.
Isn't that crazy? And that's how he became the smartest man. Now I'm not an advocate of saying we don't watch Iron Man because of that. I was just weighing it because some people would say you can't, right? So for me, that's the genetic fallacy. But some people would say that you can't, right? So we're going through that, just examining the background of things.
Howard Stark sold his soul to the devil?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Kind of creepy, man, but it's the background of
like
it.
You mean like Mephisto devil in Marvel?
No, I mean Satan.
Like not the character Mephisto or something?
No, I'm saying Satan.
Isn't that the dude's name? Mephisto or something?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. But no, it's the devil. Yeah, isn't it crazy?
Man, I don't even believe you, bro. Why are you lying, bro?
See, but
House of God Logic's back on.
The reason VOCAB is allowed to watch all that. So.
Oh yeah, it's Wyatt. Sorry, I mean House of Hikmah.
Yeah,
I understand. I understand. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. I'm glad.
All right.
Oops, my bad. Let me get rid of this. We don't need that. Hold on. I'm trying to bring on God Logic with us too. Hold up. I need to have 3 guests. House's video.
They're here. It seems like they're here in strong numbers, but we're not afraid.
Why is it doing this? Sorry, man. Sorry. All right. I bring up God Logic here. What did you want to talk about tonight, man? You got God Logic, you got Radar. What do you want to talk about, man?
Dude, great. Did you see his discussion with Ibn Fibbin?
I didn't see it. Tell me.
Dude, it was pretty funny. I mean, the dietary marks of the crown.
What happened?
Yeah, it's great. It's great stuff.
The dietary marks of who?
The Quran.
Dietary marks.
Critical.
Oh, you're talking about you're talking about the different, like with. Oh, okay. You're talking about diacritical marks. Okay, I don't lie, man. I'm sorry. I'm tired, bro. I don't know what you're saying. It's kind of quiet.
No, he said it right.
With mom calling the dietary marks.
You're kind of quiet though, man. Is he quiet just to y'all? Because he's quiet to me, bro.
Yeah, I do have to. Yeah, I do have to talk a little quiet because my landlords are asleep. But
okay, bro. Okay. Oh, you don't want to wake up the landlords.
But,
all right. So what happened in this discussion?
So God Logic, you want to tell them or should I?
I mean, you're the one who brought it up, bro.
Yeah. So they started off. So he wrote up on Uthman and Sneeko, and they started blocking his camera, blocking God Logic's camera, which is pretty hilarious. Which, by the way, I am going to clip a part where they say that the Christians are the ones that try to turn off the camera when they start losing discussions. Did you see that during his interview with Sneeko?
He did what?
Where he says, when Christians lose debates, they try to turn off their camera.
Did he really say that?
Yeah.
Wow.
During his interview with Sneeko, yes.
He really said that?
Yes, he really said that.
That's crazy.
But they're the ones that try to block your camera and block your camera angles. You had to lift your
Listen.
Sorry, I have this video that keeps on trying to want to play. McCarthy MacArthurary debunked him. I'm pretty sure they're joking.
Yeah, it's Uthman kept calling John MacArthur. It was about before. Certain numerical apparent contradictions and stuff like that. I liked how he explained certain things. And so he was like, "You like the MacArthur Study Bible? That's your authority," type of thing. I was like, "No, it's just I liked a few commentaries that he did."
Oh, yeah, okay. So he was trying to hate on that?
Yeah, he was trying to hate on that, man. He was trying to hate on your boy. But it was tough. He said that textual variance is a problem for the Bible, makes it unreliable. So
what's he say about the variants in the Quran?
Exactly. So when I brought up the variants of the Quran, he didn't know how to deal with it.
Does he admit they're there?
It depends on who he's talking to. If he knows that he's talking to someone who knows what they're talking about, then he'll have to somewhat concede that there are textual variants. But he won't say that like outrightly.
Every ancient document has textual variants, and the more copies you have, the more variants you have. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the same. Well, he said this in front of the guy who made the argument that there's only one Quran, that the book of the Council of Nicaea removed all the books that, from the Bible, or removed certain parts from the Bible.
Some guy in San Diego was saying that, or who said this?
Sneeko.
I still don't. So I deal more with Hebrews in these days, so I keep on seeing Sneeko everywhere. Who is Sneeko, and why am I seeing so much information about Sneeko?
Dude, I don't
He's
know.
an Andrew Tate wannabe.
But when did he emerge? From what realm? Or, I don't understand. Hey, shout out real quick to Torio for the super chat. We'll try to get to you in a second here, Torio. I see your question. But go ahead, man.
It's usually part of like that red pill type of squad, I guess. They be talking, doing all that type of things. And so he recently converted to Islam like a month ago. And so that's how like he's all up in the Islamic world. They're like parading him, like, oh,
so
look,
he was already in, huh?
He has a lot of like a big following, and so they're like Islam is parading him.
Was he a gamer, or was he just commenting on news? What was his thing before?
I'm not exactly sure, man. I'm not exactly sure. I've never seen his stuff. I've only seen him when he's on certain podcasts with the Red Pill community and stuff like that.
Huh. Okay.
But I haven't seen anything like that he does himself that like got him, I guess, big or whatever. I have no idea.
He's been big for like the past 3 months? Is that the kind of timeline we're talking about?
No, just he's been relevant with Islam the past like 2 months. Past about 2 months, he's been relevant with Islam because he just converted. But he himself, like, as his own content creator, he's had like, I think like he had hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and followers and stuff like that. He's a streamer. He streams, and I don't know if he does games. I don't know.
But he's like a celebrity convert in a way.
Sure, yeah, in a way.
And so his arguments are like standard bad arguments, basically.
He doesn't have any arguments yet. I mean, his arguments. If you've seen him kind of go into it a little
bit, the book of the Council of Nicaea
it's absolutely terrible. Yeah. He clearly has no knowledge of anything.
Was he worse than like an average sort of Muslim Dawah guy? Are you saying he's worse?
Yeah.
Were they really promoting him, or is he just doing this on his channel that he already has? Because do they want to promote weaker arguments like that?
Well, they're promoting. If you have a big following, if you have a name, the Islamic guys are going to promote you. Like, oh, look, this guy with a name is another one who's joined Islam.
Well, we did talk a little. If you guys go back and watch the Andrew Tate when he was on the Boom Boom Room, we actually talked a little bit about that. About another famous male revert And if you were a female, they'd harass you, you know, this and that. But and there's a funny line in there where the Tate character, of course, David Wood, says something like, "It's like Islam was created just for me," and then Muhammad says something like, "Wait, no, what? It's something like that," where he's like, "It's like he says something like that," but it's funny because Muhammad's like, yeah, it's like I was created for Islam. I think Tate says like, it's like I was created for Islam, and then Muhammad's like, or perhaps Islam was created for people like you, you know, because it shows like some of this unhealthy elements of society, you know, that they jump right into.
Yeah.
What's going on there, Hikmah?
So by the way, David did mention that there were some parts of the script that you deemed to be too much.
That happens all the time. David gets he gets away with enough. Even now, when I watch some stuff, I'm like, bro, this still went too far. But yeah, there was plenty of parts where I was like, bro, no, this can't be. I don't even. But the thing is, though, sometimes I tell him this. I'm like, look, not only is it too much, but I don't think it's as funny. So David is funny, but some of his humor is like, blunt, like punch you in the nose. I'm like, this would be funnier if it's more subtle. I was like, so instead of saying this, which is like incredibly like obvious, let's say it funnier. Say it this way, and it's not as a over the top. You know, it's obviously still over the top, but it works better. We don't have to go this far. So yeah, that definitely happens. I mean, if you watch the videos, you might be thinking, gosh, what went too far on this? Some people don't even know what I'm talking about. You know, I have a whole audience who doesn't even know that I did Boom Boom Room or any of these things. And they're just, I can tell some people had no idea what we're talking about. Hey, we got a question, though, and I think you guys are the perfect panel. Let's start with Radar, since you're here, my man. Does Acts 10 show unclean foods are clean? Torio wants to know.
Torio, you know this. You know the answer to this, brother. You're just trying to make it hot. He's want to smoke. No, I think the passage isn't about food. It's about people.
All right, tell us what elaborate.
So if you go to Acts chapter 10,
Heretic.
a voice comes from heaven. Hey, it's all right, brother. It's all right. I'll make a heretic video like that. All right. So Acts chapter 10, God tells Peter, a voice from heaven comes and tells Peter, get up, kill and eat. He sees this unclean food coming down. Several times he says, no, Lord, nothing unclean has ever touched my mouth. Happens multiple times. Now, this is not saying what the whole Bible teaches about people from the nations eating pork. We're just saying, does Acts chapter 10 teach this, right? He sees all these unclean food coming down, chapter 10, coming up. Peter says, no, Lord, nothing unclean has ever touched my mouth. Peter doesn't eat it. Later on, he goes and meets with Cornelius after the vision he has when he's upstairs. Goes down and talks to him. He says, now I see that I should not call any man unclean, which God has made clean. So what are we learning from the story? Peter had to deduce from the Bible what was clean and unclean food. Therefore, he had to decipher from the Bible what makes Gentiles clean or unclean. So basically, there was this superstition, which Peter still gets in trouble with from Paul, that he was separating from the Gentile believers, considering them unclean and dealing with the pressure of those that were coming down. And so he held himself aloof, the Bible says. But if you look further, what's happening there, he had to decipher from the Bible what foods were clean and unclean. He had to decipher from the Bible what made people clean or unclean. So therefore he goes, I should not call any person unclean. Now, this passage is not teaching us about food, but about people.
So, like, for example, the ESV Study Bible has a little note, and it says this. Tell me what you think of this. On 10:13. The command from Jesus to kill and eat made no sense to Peter, since it would have violated Jewish food laws. Verse 15 is the key. God was overturning the old clean, unclean distinctions and dietary laws in general, along with all other ceremonial laws in the Mosaic covenant, including laws about sacrifices, festivals, special days, and circumcision. Nothing like this was to get in the way of fellowship with Gentiles, as Galatians 2 also shows. it seems like you would disagree with some of that.
I would agree with the topic. I just don't think this passage is about that. I agree with what's being said there. I don't agree with that this topic is what that's about. I think this topic is Peter deciphering, how do I determine what makes man clean or unclean? Because in this passage, when you look at Acts chapter 10, Peter never gets up, kills, and eats.
Yeah, so should Peter kill and eat Gentiles then?
No, that is not even, that's not even fair. So the vision is about food, right? And he's saying, look, this food that I'm looking at is unclean, therefore I'm not eating it. So therefore, from the Bible he deciphered, therefore from the Bible he determines what's clean and unclean. Because right after, he says, now God has shown me that I shouldn't call any person unclean.
Yeah, I'm saying that's true, but what was God trying to say when he said kill and eat? What should
I think he was
Peter?
trying to show
What
that.
should Peter have done for real?
As far as what?
Well,
Well, Peter doesn't do it. Peter doesn't do it.
What's a vision?
Yeah. But I'm saying the vision is that the Lord, from my perspective, the Lord is trying to tell Peter to decipher what's food and unfood. So basically, he's seen unclean food. He knows I can't eat this thing, even if a voice from heaven tells me to do it. So he's deciphered from the Bible what's food and not food for him. So then he goes forward and decides, look, based upon the Bible, I have to see what makes man clean and unclean. Now, as a caveat, understand that this is not exhaustive about how the nations or anybody really relates to food under the new covenant. We will land on the same position with the identity markers of Israel and all that. We've talked about that before. I just don't think this passage is what points us to that. I don't think this is the passage that slam dunks that for us. I think we need other passages to point to these things.
Well, since we have an impromptu panel, does anybody else on the panel want to comment?
Yeah, I would probably capstone on the old Mosaic law was done away with per Galatians 3. The law was only a schoolmaster to us before grace has come. Now that grace has came, the law is done away with.
Yeah, I mean, I think he agrees with that, but he's kind of like saying, what about the specific passage?
Yeah, I don't think this passage is the slam dunk for, food and clean. I think Romans 2 is much more powerful. When we talk about the uncircumcised man who keeps the just requirements of the law, his uncircumcision will be rendered as circumcision, right? So therefore, if uncircumcision, which was given to Abraham, that predates the Mosaic law, it can be rendered as though you kept that, even though you break that. I believe that in the new covenant, even though someone's not keeping kosher, not keeping Sabbath, it can be rendered to them if they're keeping the weightier matters of God's word. See, when you say the law is done away with, you wouldn't say that it's okay to be adulterous. You wouldn't say it's okay to do bestiality. You wouldn't say it's okay to cheat on your wife or cheat on your finances or to treat your children poorly. So we have to understand that there's a distinction between the identity markers of Israel and God's overarching Torah, which is his teaching.
So do you think after seeing this vision, Peter should or shouldn't be thinking, hey, I can eat food with Gentiles and I can eat what they eat? Because in this vision I had.
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's basically it.
Yeah, I don't think when Peter got out of this vision and he gets the call down and he goes down, right? And he tells them in Acts 11 about it, right? He goes forward. Let me just pull it up real quick. In 1034, he goes down. I most certainly understand now that God is no one to show partiality to every nation. I don't think he's coming away thinking this is about food, right? I think when Peter steps away from this, he's thinking, wow, look at what God is doing among the Gentiles. I don't think he's thinking about food. The context isn't even really about food. He's being shown something about food, about something that's even bigger.
Well, yeah, but maybe I'm not sure what Peter was thinking, right? I don't know. I mean, I see he's saying that there, but that doesn't mean that's the sum total of thought. I guess the question is, we're trying to say, what was God trying to say? Because it'd be weird if he's like, hey, Peter, I'm going to give you a vision in which I tell you to kill and eat. But in real life, though, I don't want you to eat none of this stuff still. It's still unclean for you. Anyways, we got other questions. I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, anybody want to hop in on this? Avery?
No, it makes sense to me that the revelation of that is about people, not food necessarily. That makes sense to me because it was about the Gentiles and recognizing that the Gentiles are not unclean, right? So it makes sense to me that it's not necessarily about food.
Well, I mean, God could have communicated this lots of ways. It's grabbing that he communicated with the food. So I think there's a good amount of people that say, well, clearly, yes, it's about people, but the question is it about both?
And you're saying it is about both?
That's the way I tend to lean. I'm not really caught up if someone doesn't think it is, especially if they understand there's other passages that are even more explicit regarding the situation. Because I think we all should make sure we agree that it's about the people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I see them intertwined in a way in a person like Peter's mind to the point where the way God is unraveling it, it's sort of like he's getting at the issue almost through another issue, but it's not like in real life he's like, hey, I know I told you could eat that stuff in the vision, but I was just playing. Like, really, you can. I think God chose an interesting way to go about it.
I see.
But it's interesting discussion. I mean, but there are other questions. So hold on, let's jump on these real quick here, because live chat popped up a little bit. Somebody says, Craig says, love your work, both of you. And let me see where here. What else we got here? We got a what's up, God Logical Time Feeling. What's up, Walsh? How you doing, man? And we got Craig in the house, Dolphin, and Brother Haram. Old question, but I thought I'd put it up there. Do you guys make decent money for your YouTube channel? The answer is no. Do we make a little tiny bit sometimes every now and then? Yes. Is it enough to buy a cup of coffee or something like that every now and then? That's pretty much about it. I think that's about the answer. And that's why Jonathan Crocker says the Andor series is great. It was. Mike B says there's a guy on No Jumper named Sneeko. Is that who we're talking about? Was it?
Yeah, I think he was on
Yeah.
No Jumper.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, you should say I don't make a penny off YouTube. Wallahi, I don't make a penny on YouTube.
Why should I say that?
That was what Ibn Fibbin was saying.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't. I figured you were quoting somebody, but I didn't know that. I didn't know he said that. Yeah, it's a very small amount because a lot of my videos don't qualify for revenue because of the nature of them. They're controversial, and I've already had my channel demonetized once. It randomly got remonetized, but it never was the same when it got remonetized. So it's kind of like, it's just how it is. Hey, Samuel, I see you there, but I don't see your face. I just see a car thing in the jigger. And so, yeah, you really can't do it, and they can just demonetize you anytime. And you'll see here.
You got people really asking about your money on here.
Yeah.
They crazy, man.
Michelle agrees, though. Then somebody wants to know more about Godspeed, wants to know more about what Homeboy said about Council of Nicaea. Well, he says, what is Council of Nicaea? Is this a thing? Well, Godspeed, let me tell you this. Of course,
it's a book.
Council. Well, that's what he was saying? It's a book?
It was a book in the Bible.
Yeah. Oh, wait, he didn't really say that, did he?
VOCAB. He said that they took out the people, removed the book of the Council of Nicaea from the Bible.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, in real life, huh?
I don't have that book in my Bible, so it's probably true.
Well, that's because they took it out, bro, obviously.
They took it out.
In real life, everyone, the Council of Nicaea convened in 325 in what is now known as Turkey. And it was convened because for the first time, Christians were allowed to come out and play empire-wide, meaning prior to that, They weren't allowed to come out and play. I'm using colloquial language here, but they were allowed to come out and play in full sight of the government for the first time all together now in 325. And the governor, as far as top governor, Constantine, even kind of liked Christians at that point. So he said, you know what? You guys got a lot of issues you need to resolve that I'm hearing people argue about, specifically this Arianism thing. So I want you guys to go ahead and resolve that. I think it'd be better for you and maybe even better for unity in the empire. So you guys come on out and work these issues out, and then I'll help you enforce it. So perhaps about 318 bishops came, and they all jumped there together, had these discussions, and you can get the rulings. They're called canons that happened. They are publicly available. So type in Canons of Council of Nicaea. A lot of them are pretty boring, but the big thing that came out of it, the main thing was Jesus Christ's homoousios, is the Greek word means same substance, not homoousios, Greek word that means similar substance, as with the Father, meaning Jesus Christ is fully God, not just like God. He's not created, as the Arians claimed. That's what happened at Nicaea. Nicaea did not discuss canonical issues, everyone. So that's something you hear. And Nicaea certainly was not a book. Nicaea was a council. It really did happen. The traditional vote that's given, although we, like with history, you have to say, this is reported, this is reported. The vote that's given as far as in favor of the position that was taken up by the Orthodox versus the Arians is 316-2. Yeah, that's usually the position. So it wasn't like this close thing. It didn't turn Jesus into God as people recognizing it was already there. And then afterwards, Athanasius became the main known defender of this. He wasn't actually really relevant that much at Nicaea itself. People kind of think it was like a showdown between him and Arius. That's not quite the case, but he was the defender of Nicene orthodoxy afterwards. In fact, his bishop Alexander of Alexandria was more prominent at the council. And there is a story that may be true that the man that became known as Santa Claus was there, and we don't know if it's true, a story supposedly that he slapped Arius in the face for disrespecting Jesus. Don't know if that's true, but I have seen a funny comic, and it goes, ho, 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 homoousios. That's a super nerd joke. Only some people will understand what is happening with that. But that's what Nicaea is. James White has a really good article called What Really Happened at Nicaea. Look that up. It's at equip.org, and that'll help you. You got to read that. That's a good start. Comment, guys, because I don't know all what the man originally said, your man Ibn or whatever. But what do you guys want to comment on that?
It was Sneeko who said.
Oh, Sneeko, okay. Sneeko, okay.
They took out the book of the Council of Nicaea from the Bible, which you have evidence in the original Injil. You can find that there. Other than that, man, you touched on it very well.
It's wild.
Shout out to Brad Patterson. Thank you for the super chat, Brad. Very much. Should Israel be a state because it came into existence not by God's word, but by the creation of the Balfour Declaration after World War II by England? And isn't Israel supposed to be the temple of Trinitarian believers? Well, Radar, I'm pretty sure they're asking that question because you're here.
Yeah. So
if you want to have at it.
Yeah, I think Dr. Brown has a position that I think is pretty solid. If the door was closed for the state to exist because God closed the door, and now Israel's in the land and it exists, God must have allowed the door to be opened, right? For them to be regathered in a temporary sense. But also, as Dr. Brown says, which I echo, when Israel does good, Israel does good. When the modern state of Israel does bad, they do bad. Call out the bad, you call out the good. At the end of the day, it still is a secular state. But like we said, if the Lord closed the door, that the existence of the state of Israel will stop existing, ancient Israel, and now they're back in, it's fair to say that God allowed them to re-enter into the land and out of the ashes of the Holocaust and those sorts of things. I think it's a good thing that it happened, that the Jewish people have a state. But look, it is a secular state. It's a secular nation, and it falls in many different points. It's not a perfect state, and they make many mistakes, As far as and isn't Israel supposed to be the temple of Trinitarian believers? I believe, as Ephesians 2 says, if you're from the nations and you're far off and you believe in Yeshua Jesus, you become part of the Commonwealth of Israel. Not that you're becoming a Jew for salvation, but that you become part of that family of God, part of that remnant, And just like natural born Jews who reject Jesus, reject Yeshua, they get cut off from the tree and they stay by the wayside, being able to be regrafted in if they repent. But even those from nations who join it can be cut off. And so that's my perspective. So as far as like,
Wyatt, you
go
guys
ahead.
want to
I have a
comment as
follow-up
well?
question.
Hmm?
I have a follow-up question. Since we got the rabbi here. Rabbi, Israel became a state. Does that like fulfill that prophecy that, Israel became like a nation or whatever in one day or something like that? You know how some people use that prophecy? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Look, I think there is a prophecy of Israel becoming a nation in a day. I think that is a prophecy that exists. I think there are multiple ways to look at it. Look, God can use anybody to fulfill what he needs. Do you not think that could be a fulfillment of prophecy in those days, Avery?
I think it could.
Yeah, I think it could. And typically most people in the Messianic movement basically hold it that it is a prophecy of the state coming into existence. But we're talking about secular nations that are not submitting to the Lord all the time. So it's going to be messy. Israel has a lot of blood on their hands. They made many mistakes. Israel has done things that were right, just like all of our nations, right? If we were to revert back to our former boundaries, we'd all be packing up our bags and heading somewhere else, except for me. I'd go back to Puerto Rico, which is part of America. So, look, I think we'd all be going back to our homeland, right? And moving back. So I think that the
And
focus
the
has to
Native
be on.
Americans were the so-called black man.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of failures from, secular nations. I think they don't live up to it. We were never meant to have kings. We were supposed to have God as our king. This is why the Messiah has to be God. So I think we need to be looking forward to that new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem. That's really where God is driving people to.
That's a good little plug-in point that you just put in, that man
Yeah,
was never supposed to be the king of Israel.
I didn't mean to drop that. I was working on something.
By the way, what's your stance on this Palestinian Israel conflict that's going on? I mean, I have a lot of friends that are Palestinian activists. Even my parents are Palestinian activists.
As far as what? Look, I think when man gets involved, it becomes messy, man. I long for the coming back of the Messiah every day. So I think it's all messy. I think there's mistakes on both sides. I think and I think that we need the Lord to intervene to make everything right. He's going to reconcile all things. So, I don't sit up there with the politicians making the decisions, and I'm glad that I don't have to. But when the Lord comes back, all this stuff is going to be fixed and reconciled. And what we are told to do in Scripture is pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And notice that it's not the individuals in Jerusalem, but all the people, right? So, because out of Jerusalem flows many other things. So, as we notice, it becomes the epicenter of the world when Israel is the size of New Jersey, right? So, then we pray for the peace of Jerusalem, but also pray for the Messiah to return quickly, right?
Amen.
Why do you think, what do you think? Hikmah?
I'm not studied up on the topic to give an actual response, but I think it's all messy.
Yeah, I think it's messy. I think it's messy, and I think we need the Lord to intervene, man, and come quickly.
Well, I can't disagree with that. There's Israel's far from perfect,
but there is,
as far as all kinds of ways and all kinds of things. But anyone that's studied the issue knows that the same can be said, obviously, for the Palestinians and the other, Muslim nations surrounding Israel. And in this crazy world that I do think is filled with Jew hatred, I am glad that there's one relatively safe place. I say relatively because obviously there's all kinds of things always going on there, where people who are of Jewish descent or affiliate with them or want to can be in a place that they're not attacked with the same kind of fervency and frequency as in lots of other places in the world. And I mean, a lot of the goals of people associated with a lot of certain strands of Palestinian activism seem a lot more radical than just we want fair treatment for Palestinians. A lot of the goals, ulterior motives, seem much more sinister when I look at it. And remember, I'm like a new covenant guy, somebody that you guys might accuse me of being a replacement theologian, although we don't use that terminology. But that doesn't mean I can't recognize the validity and importance of having a place where people can go. And just on a political level, it's somewhat of an ally, especially when you compare it to Iran or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's going to be messy for a long time. But thank you for the super chat, Brad. That's why I answered the question, or let Rabbi Eduardo answer it.
Yeah, but by the way, there might be a good topic to talk about. I'm going to Ohio on August 3rd to the 7th to go to El Iso Elohim's conference. I think I mentioned this to you. I think I mentioned that to you guys. By the way, God Logic, cancel your wedding plans and come. I'm kidding.
Shout out to Jugent for the super chat. Thank you. Sorry it took me a second to recognize that, brother. Appreciate that very much, my man, as well. And we have one more super chat we got to answer, and then maybe from Torio follow up. I like this one better than the first one, though, too. How do we know the Tanakh is preserved? How do we know the Tanakh is preserved?
Yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls are like over 1,000 years apart from Moses, right? So how do we know that it's preserved?
The Dead Sea Scrolls are very, very old. I don't think they're 1,000 years from Moses, though.
That's what I hear from the Muslims.
Wait, that's what they say? No, it's farther away. It's farther away than 1,000 years.
Even more than.
Well, the argument, if a Muslim, hold on. Yeah, if a Muslim is speaking, you just have to say you have to judge by the Torah and the Injil. So the Torah must be preserved according to the Quran.
That's beautiful. Now, what if you're not talking to a Muslim? Then what?
Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls actually, of course, are a fantastic representation of the accuracy of the Tanakh. Not only that, of course, the Masoretes do come later. That's true, but we can see the stuff they did to carefully preserve. Now, we don't have all the evidence of all the scribal traditions of what they did prior to the Masoretes, as in details what the Masoretes did. And again, they are later, but it shows continuing sort of a train of careful scribal practice by the Jewish people. They didn't, in general, build great things like the Babylons. Obviously, there's a temple, and I'm not. What was the sort of pride and joy? It's the Tanakh itself. This is something that's getting taken care of, that's taken very seriously, that's prized, that you have a whole literary culture around it, and people are going to great pains to do this. And the Dead Sea Scrolls are interesting because they're produced by a sectarian community. So these are people, most likely the Essenes, who don't even agree with the main body of Jews in Israel. That's why they're living out there by themselves. We're the pure ones, we're the clean ones, whatever. And yet they're preserving these things. And we have it because it seems like they thought they were going to come back to those caves. Of course, it seems like they never did, but no one else knew until, these jars got cracked open. And then it's like, oh, they were about 1,000 years older, though, my understanding, than the oldest scrolls that we had before then. A lot of them are kind of contemporaneous with Jesus, but some are older. And, you can go through and look. And saying that they're identical in every way to other Hebrew scrolls that we have, that's an overstatement. But saying that it proves that these things are carefully preserved, that is not an overstatement. It's quite amazing. I mean, if we would have found the Dead Sea Scrolls and you open up Isaiah and it's like a radically different book than what we had, it would be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the case. It's not the case. And so the Dead Sea Scrolls do help. But, there's other stuff. Some of it's very fragmentary, but, you get the old silver amulet. It's really, really old. And then even interesting things like this. Now, this just relates a little bit. you got even the Egyptians. Sometimes you have other nations sometimes talking about Israel. And my favorite one is there in Sudan. And you have one of the pharaohs, because at the time Sudan was part of the Egyptian kingdom. And he writes about these Hebrews, and he calls them the nomads of Yahweh in the hieroglyph. So it's in a hieroglyph. But you can just look this up. Look up, you just got to put in words like Egypt, Sudan, oldest mention of Yahweh. And it's crazy. This Egyptian inscription has the divine name, but in the hieroglyphs way back then.
That's dope.
And it's a pretty amazing thing. There's some good archaeology channels that have it on there, and they talk about this. But as a Christian, when I see Jesus trusting the Tanakh and the text of it, that, I'll just put it this way, that makes a big impact and a big difference about it. Because ultimately, I'm a Christian. I'm not saying it's contradicting, but just please understand, people. I'm a Christian because of Jesus, not because of Moses. Now, I'm just putting it that way to understand where my faith is, who my Savior is. Now, obviously, these things all go together. He's a prophet like Moses, Deuteronomy 18. I'm not downplaying Moses. My point is, Jesus trusting these things, quoting these things makes a big deal. But Rabbi Eduardo, I should let you answer.
Yeah, I would echo both of the things that you guys said, honestly. I mean, the fact of how Yeshua Jesus uses it, he quotes it. They talk about the 3 segments of it within the Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls as we have them, just even the way that the Jewish people have copied the manuscripts and how we have them. So even though we have the Aleppo Codex, we know within their tradition the way that it was copied. I mean, so it was the way they treat the scrolls when they have mistakes inside of them, that sort of thing. It's not that mistakes don't still creep in, but as we look at it, it's very easy to tell that the Tanakh has been preserved and the things that it records. It's funny, you look at even archaeology, things we didn't know about places and names that the Bible says, and then later on we find out that they're accurate. We found that.
I think that would be a good topic for a stream.
Yeah.
The preservation of the Tanakh, and just to go into detail of what you guys just touched on so that people can be really educated. I think that'd be a good idea. What do you think?
Yeah, we should do that.
Okay. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
I like that a lot. For sure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about it more. I mean, there's more to say. I mean, we haven't even touched on, the Septuagint. It's a pretty old translation. When you look at it, when it was done, when it was completed, and we also have an additional witness in a way to the Hebrew text. Now, someone may say, "What? Doesn't VOCAB know the Septuagint is a Greek translation?" Of course, I know. That's my point. I'm saying getting into translations, and what you have is you have Hebraic texts that would be utilized in the translation of Septuagint. And then what it does is gives you some idea about the state of the Hebrew text at that time